Let's talk for a minute about the most hot-button issue in Israel today, Haredim in the IDF. But first, a quick history lesson. The Romans used a method called divide and rule to control the many populations it governed. This method involved pitting groups against each other through identity politics, culture wars, scapegoating, fear-mongering, or amplified grievances. The powerful prevent unity, maintain control, and shift focus away from their own corruption or betrayal. And this is precisely the tactic unleashed by the Israeli government and its media cronies against the nation of Israel. Their favorite target is the Haredim, with settlers coming in at a close second. If they can convince you that the Haredim are nothing more than parasites who leech off the system to avoid military service, and that you're just a sucker for sending your son to sacrifice his life for Israel in the army, well, that's some powerful emotional manipulation that can trigger immense hatred against an entire sect of Israeli society. But this anger might be misplaced. That's because it's all a distraction from the real problem. Because as long as you're distracted by the Haredi draft dodging issue, they hope you won't notice that the same army invited Hamas into Israel on October 7th. So what does one have to do with the other? Actually, everything. Because as long as you're distracted by the Haredim, you'll prioritize their draft dodging over the fact that the army you want them to join intentionally ignored the boatloads of intel leading up to the October 7th invasion. Think about it. Even if 1 million Haredim joined the IDF, it wouldn't matter if that same IDF issued a 7-hour stand-down order on October 7th. And by the way, Haredi leaders and lawmakers are equally guilty. They're also involved in the divide and rule scheme to prevent unity. We need to acknowledge that they're partners with the ruling class, inciting Haredim against the rest of Am Yisrael. Look, our focus needs to be on what's best for Israel's military deterrence and security, not on which sects of society get unfair privileges. I have mixed feelings about the Haredi draft issue, but if you've done a good faith analysis and concluded that drafting Haredim is a bigger priority for Israel's security than a purge of generals who sacrifice soldier lives to prevent the deaths of so-called civilians in Rafah, then by all means, run with it. I've researched this topic for a very long time, and I'm not convinced. But one thing I do know is that the "it's not fair" argument has become the default position of many. It's childish and ignores the bigger picture. Because our army is only as effective as the people who give the orders. And according to my analysis, those people remaining employed are a far greater security risk to Israel than any Haredim who didn't draft into the IDF.